Welcome back. Welcome back. So this follow-up video is another part to what we discussed before in terms of getting your business ideas out to market. And as you well know, it can be tricky and difficult to do that. What I'm going to talk about this time, though, is some books that I've read over the last couple of months to a year or so that has helped me tremendously. And I'll talk about the last one, sort of my favorite one, I guess, in this series. Just three books that I think are helpful with helping you getting your ideas out there into the market. One of the books I read was a book by Dan Pena, Your First 100 Million. I don't know where the copy of that book is right now, but it's a great book. It's a great book, and it talks about really the hard work that you have to put into getting your business ideas out there. And it's not easy. It's not the typical 8 to 5 job. And in fact, what Dan was doing, which I'm not advocating in any way, what Dan does or was doing then was he would have his staff working 24, 48, sometimes going on 3 days, and nap in between, if you would, just working on an idea. So when he has an idea that he is going to run with or go with, he was a madman. He was a bulldog, and he just went crashing through all the barriers, all the stops, if you would, and sleep was not a factor. And that's how he got his money. I mean, he just worked hard. And it's really true in that if you want anything done, you have to get over that 8 to 5 stuff and really know that you have to put in, for the most part, 16-hour, 18-hour days to making your dreams come true. Now, I know that most of us, or many of us, I should say, not most of us, we have families, we have little kids, and we have people to take care of and so forth. And I'm fortunate enough that my kids are now in college, and so it's just in my house, just me and my wife. But people have lives, other lives, if you would. They're married and they have their kids, and some people with young kids, for example, have to get up in the morning at 4 to help the kids out to get them up and ready for school, and out to get the bus and to school, and at the end of the day at 3 o'clock, I got to pick them up from school and get them home and get the homework done and get the dinner done and all that. I've been there. I've been exactly there. I worked full time with kids and go to school, college full time. So I know what that means. It's not easy, but as I said before in the previous video, you have to find the time. You have to find some time to get things done, whether it be late at night sometimes or weekends. I know most of us, when the kids come home and you get them dinner and you get them fed and off to bed and whatever else, you just want to relax on the couch and sort of melt in the couch and just fall asleep and get up the next day and do it all over again. I get that. However, that doesn't do it, right? Because just think about this. Think about it this way. If you do that same thing for the next 10 years, you will be exactly where you are 10 years from now, right? If nothing changes, the result of what you get will be what you currently have. Now, if that's sufficient and okay, then you can stop watching this video now. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting your business ideas out to market. And if you're just putting in an 8 to 5, it's not going to cut it. And that's what Dan is talking about. Dan is saying essentially you have to work your tail off to getting any of your ideas and views done. And again, if it's an hour here, a couple of days a week, and then 3 or 4 hours in the weekends or 5 hours in the weekends or whatever, put some time into it. It's better than zero, right? You can complain about not having time and just tired and exhausted and all of that. But that's what separates the people who really want it or really hungry for it and the people who don't, right? That's the distinctive difference between the two. The people who actually want it find ways to making it happen and not having excuses in terms of why they can't getting things done. And again, I would find time on the weekend if you would. Put Saturday, Sunday. I do not watch for example, sports. I don't. I don't have time for that. Those guys make their millions, and you're trying to get yours. That's what I'm talking about. So you don't have time for that either. If you have time to watch, you know, football on the weekend or baseball on the weekends, you have time to get your business done. Anyway, that's the gist of what he's talking about. You have to put a lot of time into it to get your things done and get what you want out of life. The other book I read was Tony Robbins, and this is the book, Money Master the Game. It's this book. Now, another phenomenal book, another phenomenal guy. What I got from that book was really how important it is to have a long-term plan of investment. How compound interest works, for example, how the stocks essentially work, how index funds, for example, how they work. And the people he interviewed in the book are just like you and myself. These are people who were, sort of low middle income people who found a way to sort of get their ideas and get their niche out there into the market. And now many, in fact, all of them in the book are either, mega millionaires or billionaires or whatever. And it's not that I'm trying to get there particularly, but it's the same premise. It's the same premise from Dan's book onto Tony's book. You have to put the work into it, and it's the 8 to 5 piece of it is not that doesn't work. And God help those who have an 8 to 5 job and still can do all the things that I want to do. I want to cruise, I want to travel, I want to go to different countries, I want to see different parts of the U.S., for example. I want to go to Europe and all the countries in Europe. I want all of those things for myself and my wife, and if I want that, I have to put the time into it. And that's what Dan is saying so far, and that's what Tony is saying. You have to find the time to put your time into it, and 8 to 5 is not the time that we're talking about. This is beyond your 8 to 5 is what this should be called. It's beyond the 8 to 5 is what those guys are talking about. And then the other book, in this book, I absolutely love this book. And I don't know how people get along in life without this book. Tim Ferris, The 4-Hour Workweek. That book is a game changer. What he does in his book, and I've read this book twice and I still reference it probably weekly for different spots and sections. What he talks about in this book is really getting away from the mundane 8 to 5. He has a thing called a muse, and what the muse really is essentially one of your ideas that you have to get your muse out into the market, and that's sort of how you get away from being tired all the time and the typical routine 8 to 5 stuff. He talks about a muse, and if you get your muse, whatever that is, whatever your one idea is that you know is going to work, out to market, how it could change your life. So, like, his life now is all about, which is what I want to do. I want to work out and talk to people, interviews, meet people, travel, live in a different country for a month, and that's what he does now. And it's all based on things that you and I could do easily. Now, the thing I loved about this book the most was it changed my whole perspective on life and business. The whole thing is a complete paradigm shift after this book was done. And here's why. Most of all of my life, before, let's say, a year, maybe 2 years ago, I thought that it would be best to be my own boss. Have my own company, my own business, which is what I have been working on or working at forever. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have the music I'm talking about. It doesn't mean you can't have that at all. What I'm talking about is I used to want to have a business, a sort of a building where you had staff and you had all these people, and you went to work every day and went to your business every day, and you're your own boss, and you can have your own time off, and you can have your own vacation. All of which were sort of wonderful, phenomenal ideas. Now, he said, no, that doesn't work. In fact, you should not do that. Be essentially tied to a business that, you're not free at that point. You're not free. And the example that I heard, I'm not sure if it was his book or someone else that talked about this. So let's say your idea is to own a coffee shop, and I don't know, you're my age, you're early 50s or late 40s, whatever you are, and you have this wonderful coffee shop. You get up in the morning at 4 a.m. to get to the business, to start the coffee and perhaps make the donuts and get everything all ready and so forth until 7 o'clock the first person walks in, and they get your coffee and you're there on your feet the entire day making different brews and batches of brews, and you're making different donuts and whatever else you're making, and you have your staff of 3 or 4 or 5 people at the work with you, and they go home at 6 or 7 at night, but you're there until probably 8 or 9 because you got to close the shop and put things away and whatever else. You're working essentially from 4 a.m. to about 8 or 9 at night. Then you go home, you have dinner, then you work out the plans for the next day, right? That's all great. That's all great. And in fact, what I read again is that most of those businesses that you have, 95% of them are closed or out of business in 10 years. So again, let's say you have this coffee shop and you have this, 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. lifestyle. What happens when you're sick? What happens when you want to go on vacation? What happens when, you want to go to a wedding out of town or out of the country, or you want to go somewhere else, right? Because most people, what they have when they have their business, what they try to do is they try to keep all their little secrets and their recipes and whatever else, or their way of doing things to themselves so that you can't steal their ideas, right? That's what people do. But if you're sick, then who takes care of your business? Who takes care of your bills? Who takes care of who takes care of the business, right? So then you're in the hospital, God forbid, for a month, or home sick for a month. You're worried sick about your business. Is it functional? Is it working? Is it not? And you can't get better because you're worried. You're stressed out about your business, your job, and that's your livelihood, right? He talks about automating all of that. If you have a business, your entire goal for that business is to put it on autopilot, right? To be able to get away from that business, go on vacation, go to that wedding, go live in Europe for a month, and have the business sustainable by itself, by outsourcing or having other people essentially work the business or in the business on the day-to-day. Right now, clearly you'll make a little bit less, but guess what? You now have the opportunity of relaxing enough, thinking about other business plans and ideas and ventures, if you would, perhaps even starting something else, right? Because now you're not tied to that business every day. You're away from the business and you're sleeping until 9, you're getting up and you're working out, and you may go by the business and see how things are working. But your goal is to automate the entire process, not for you to be sort of stuck to it, right? Long term. So that's my new thing. That whole concept of sort of having my business now, that's a long gone view. No more. I'm working on my own things now. And it's affording me a lot. For the first time, my wife and I went to, a couple of cruises in the last couple of years. We've probably been to, I don't know, in the last 2 years, we've been to 8 or 10 countries in the last 2 years. So it's doing a lot for us. But again, you have to find your muse, your business plan, that one thing that's going to work for you. Get that worked out, teased out, and get it to the market. But you have to put time into it. And that's a daily, every other day, weekly, monthly, 6-month plan. You have to think about it. You have to work it short term, long term. Look at it every day, as I said before. Arrange them and get that one idea that you have out to the market and have that as your muse and make it happen for yourself. But again, you have to put the work into it. You have to put the time into it. Otherwise, this is for naught, right? That's all I have for now. I'm wishing you luck with your business. Now, if you have anything for me in terms of you have something else that you found, a book that you read that was a phenomenal book that you want to share with us or share with me, I would be more than happy to add it to my posts if you would. Anyway, good luck with everything. Take care.